So let's move on and continue with confidence. All right. So we know that eye contact is required because you know that you can't look down at your note card for more than 20% of your speech because that would be public reading rather than public speaking. So the second element when it comes to confidence is obviously your volume. I need to be able to hear you. Now the good news is you'll be able to essentially determine whether or not your volume was high enough when you play back this recording or the recording of your speech. If you can't hear yourself, it's a pretty good bet that I can't hear you either. So make sure we can hear you. And the last thing when it comes to confidence that every speaker needs, all right, we got confidence, we got eye contact, we got volume, and body posture. Body posture is the third one. When you are behind or when you're up there speaking, don't slouch, don't cross your arms, don't put your arms behind your back. If you want to think of having correct body posture, think of the way a politician, a soldier, or a lawyer would present their speeches. All right? So back's always straight, chest is always out. All right? Don't pace, don't walk back and forth, stand still. When your longest speech is only 5 to 7 minutes, there's no reason for you to pace. All right? So those are the three things I'm grading you on when it comes to confidence. So let's move on to the sixth key, which is command. Command over your speech. All right? Now there's two things I grade you on when it comes to command. The first thing is, do you have a mastery over the topic? All right? A mastery over the topic means that if you remember that first, or the question from the syllabus quiz, the difference between understanding and memorizing, those who are able to master their speech usually are able to perform the second element of command quite easily, which is the fluidity of your delivery. Is your delivery smooth, or does it sound like you're driving down the interstate filled with speed bumps? All right, so if you know your speech backwards and forwards, if you have a high command of it, then being able to deliver a smooth performance should be pretty easy. Because think about it. Let's say you're giving a speech about something you are an expert in, that you have high command over, mastery. Well, if you have a memory gap or brain hiccup, you can just skip it and go to the next thing you know. But if you don't have a high command, you'll be up there going, oh yeah, so the next thing I need to say, all right, yeah. That's a clear indication of a lack of command, and each lack of command, as in, gaps in the delivery, will obviously count as a deduction. The seventh key that you need to know is, to recap, key 5, command. And confidence, my bad. With confidence, you got eye contact, volume, and body posture. With the seventh key, command, you have mastery over the topic, which leads to the fluidity of the delivery. All right? And then we have the seventh key, known as the narrative. All right? Believe it or not, folks, the number one way that most information is passed from human to human to human is not by Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, for that matter. No, it's through traditional storytelling. So the narrative component on every one of your speeches will be graded by, does your speech just sound like a grocery list where you're going section by section by section, or have you interwoven them all together using transitions to formulate a narrative? And then when we look at the next video, which is going to cover what you're going to be required for the next speech, or your first speech, I should say, you're going to hear an example of a narrative. All right? So narrative, you got to tell a story. You can't be giving a speech sounding like you're reading a grocery list. All right? And the last and final key that you need to know, the eighth key, for the 8 keys of public speaking is tone. Tone. Now, here's how I grade you on tone. Just like in narrative, how I said you can't sound like you're delivering a speech like a grocery list. Likewise, for tone, you have to demonstrate and perform your speech as if you have a ton of passion, enthusiasm, and you're just investing it all in this speech. We need to know and hear that you actually care about what you're speaking about. If you go out there and give a presentation and it doesn't sound like you care less, that you're just doing this to move on to the next assignment, you will not do well, because tone not only requires that you infuse emotion into your presentation, but it also requires that that emotion be true to the topic. Is your emotion true to the topic? And that prevents people from being overacting, being overly enthusiastic. What comes to mind kind of is the way that the typical fire and brimstone speech, the way that you may present at a church is not the way you present in public speaking. One is closer to drama and acting. This one is closer to being a formal academic. All right. So, one, when it comes to tone, make sure that you have tone by infusing passion and emotion into the topic, meaning to the speech. And secondly, for tone, make sure that the emotion is true to the message. All right. Don't overact it and don't underact it. All right. Nonetheless, those are the 8 keys of public speaking. Get these mastered, get them written down. You'll have homework about them this weekend, as well as they'll be on future exams and quizzes. All right. Other than that, feel free to email me if you got any other questions. Otherwise, keep up your weekly exams and keep an eye out for the next video, which will cover your first speech. Until then, adios.